What's up? How you doing? Here we are late at night. It's early Sunday morning, so let's see what time it is. 1:05 in the morning, Sunday, and we're here making a video. Beautiful night tonight. Beautiful night. So we have some posters here. Talk about them a little bit. Get a little light there. Friday the 13th. Jason. In my time, we waited for these movies to come out. They were very, very enjoyable. I remember on one of them, there was, I don't know, maybe like 8 high school, college, I don't know what they were, college kids that were sitting behind me and a friend of mine who went to see this movie, and they had scoring cards like they do in the Olympics, 0 through 10, and they would grade each murder scene by raising the numbers up like they were judges. Very funny. So, Crystal Lake. I've been to Crystal Lake. But yeah, cool. Friday the 13th. I wish they would make more of them. It's that kind of, movie that we enjoy going, and just, you know they're fake, but you still enjoy them. Next. Let's see what else we got here. Halloween. That was a cool movie. Jamie Lee Curtis was in it, capitalizing on her mother's success with the Psycho movie, from the Psycho movie. But I remember, reminds me of, like my neighborhood growing up, Halloween night. And then you have this guy roaming around. Good movie, Unstoppable. Like they kept going after him at the end, and he kept coming back. Hollywood. Then one of my favorite movies, The Outsiders. Love this movie. The Outsiders. Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid, was in here. And I did not realize back then that Leif, as they call it, Leif Garrett, was in it. I was a big fan of, Tom Cruise. I didn't know Tom Cruise was in it. And I have seen this, but many, many years ago, but I don't remember Tom Cruise being in it. Francis Ford Coppola presents The Outsiders. Yeah, cool movie. I know Patrick Swayze was in it. I know the rest of them were in it, but Leif Garrett and Tom Cruise, I did not realize that. So, Leif Garrett, we call him Leif. I don't know, Leif. So I had a friend of mine, and his mother worked. I never met his mother. I don't know. He'd bring me over his house. We'd kill a few minutes there, and then I'd leave. Well, one time I was over there, and he had his turntable going, and he said, "Let me play you something." He goes, "You're gonna love this." And he put on Leif Garrett's album, the one with Surfing USA, Put Your Head on My Shoulders, those covers that were all on that album. And he played me Surfing USA, and immediately I was like, "That is awesome." I went and I bought the 8-track. And then I played the 8-track probably hundreds of times on my mother's car. She had an 8-track player. Love that album. Love that album. I wish Leif Garrett was still around making music. I mean, he's still around, but he's not making music. Tom Waits. Love Tom Waits. Tom Waits. I am a huge fan of his. Discovered him by accident. I used to go to Tower Records once a week, and I'd go through everything in there, magazines, CDs, albums, you name it, I would go through it. And one day, on the speakers up above, he had just released a new album. I think it was Bone Machine or Black Rider. Gotta see which one. I think it was Bone Machine. Anyway, they were playing it, and immediately it spoke to me. So I went to the front there and I said, "Who is that? Who's playing up there?" And he pointed down. He's like, and I looked, and it was a CD, Tom Waits, and I bought it, and I've been a fan ever since. Love his music, everything about him. The early stuff, the late stuff, everything. And one of my favorite Tom Waits albums came on later on in his career. Right? Mule Variations, Tom Waits. This was a very unexpected album. I remember I went to Tower Records, did not know that he was releasing anything. I happened to be at the right place at the right time, and I saw a new album by Tom Waits. I grabbed it. I went home. Great tunes. I love What's He Building in there. But they're all great. All of them. Made in Japan. Big in Japan. Sorry. Big in Japan. Love that tune. Love that tune. The House Where Nobody Lives. Another great tune. But yeah. He's one of my big regrets in life in terms of music. Always wanted to see him live. Never got to see him live. Now he doesn't tour anymore. I mean, I keep going, typing in his name for tours, says not touring. So somebody must know him. You have to go and you have to tour at least once more. I gotta see you. I have to see you in concert. I think he's like 75, maybe 76, somewhere around there. But very talented guy. Love his lyrics, love the music, love the singing. Tom Waits. Everybody knows Kiss. Man, Kiss in the 70s, they were huge. They were huge. I Was Made for Loving You. Detroit Rock City, great tune. I love Beth. Such a cool tune, great lyrics. In today's world, they would not be able to pull this off. The makeup, too many cameras around now, you know. Somebody would snap it, put it in Teen Beat magazine, National Enquirer, Tiger Beat. But back then in the 70s, you know, nobody carried a camera. And if people did, it was like a handful. So, you know, it was tough to get them without makeup. Now, with all these people with the iPhones, they would be this way, and it wouldn't be anonymous. It would be, oh yeah, we know what they look like. Somebody would snap a picture of them, but yeah, great idea. Then they took the makeup off. Popularity went down the tubes. They put the makeup back on, they got popular again. Yeah. Another band here, huge band. Queen. Awesome band. Freddie Mercury vocals. Great. So many good tunes. And you know, if you got a good radio, crank it all the way and listen to We Will Rock You. Dr. Demento would say another one rides the bus. Another one bites the dust but rides the bus. Of course, the Beatles. Right there, John Lennon with the outfit. Great album, Abbey Road. Now, obviously, to me, it's obvious they did this on purpose, trying to set the storyline that Paul had died. It's like, look at John here, how he's dressed. Look at this guy. He's barefoot, indicates that he died. I don't know. And then the Volkswagen here, the plate, I can't see it, but it's like if 28 or something, like if Paul McCartney lived, he'd be 28, something like that. So if I ever go to England, I have not been there, but if I ever go, I want to take a picture right on this spot, right on that spot. And I'd even like to take a tour of Abbey Road Studios. This band, huge impact on music, huge impact. I mean, you're talking 60, 70 years later, 65 years later, and yeah, 60 plus years later, and people are still talking about them. You know, four guys from Liverpool came together, and in those 10 years, not even, they put out an amazing amount of work. I think 12 albums, tons of hits, just amazing. I discovered them. I mean, I knew who they were from people saying, oh, the Beatles, the Beatles. I always heard about the Beatles, but in the summer of '81, I happened to get my hands on a Beatles album, the one with the balconies, with they're clean cut on one side, and on the other side they got the beards going and the long hair. And I started listening, and then I realized that they were very, very good, and I couldn't get enough of them. I was playing the Beatles all the time, all the time. You got to see Paul McCartney in 1990, Flowers in the Dirt tour, Flowers in the Dirt tour, and that song, My Brave Face, love that tune. Wrote it with Elvis Costello. Great tune. What else we have here? This guy here is absolutely my favorite all-time blues musician. Love this guy. I just discovered him back in 1989. And there was a time when I was playing Muddy Waters all day, all day. Favorite, love him. I wish that I'd gone to see him back, you know, when I was a kid. I didn't know about him back then. He died in 1980. I wish that I had seen him. Everything about him. I love the way he sings it. I love the lyrics, I love the music, I love the way he plays his guitar, everything. Now, Howlin' Wolf was his competitor, and I like him too, but for me, Muddy Waters was better. I have the box set, you know, and when I got that originally, the place where I worked had my radio there, and Muddy Waters would be playing all the time. Occasionally, somebody would come in and they would say, hey, you got Muddy Waters there? And I'd go, yep. They go, love Muddy Waters. And then I met somebody out here, and they told me that his parents had seen Muddy Waters many, many, many times, so we kind of bonded over that. But I think he's one of the best blues, not one of, he is the best blues musician. Let's be realistic here. And I'll tell you, you know, they always give credit, you know, to Little Richie or Little Richard, and he deserves, you know, a lot of credit for you know, creating the sound of rock and roll. But this guy here, along with a bunch of other blues guys, they are the foundation of modern pop music, rock and roll, right here. Full credit to Muddy Waters, and he has a song. What was it? The Blues Had a Baby, and they named it Rock and Roll. That's right. That's where rock and roll comes from. Rock and roll comes from the music of the blues, and a little tweaking here and there, and you get rock and roll from that. But I'm a huge fan. I used to go when I was younger in my prime. I would go to the House of Blues quite often, and I still to this day love that kind of music. Something about it, I don't know. I always wished that I was in the dark in some kind of nightclub, bluesy, in the 1940s, playing the tambourine with the band. You know, I used to go to the House of Blues and I'd sit there and listen to all these blues musicians. Just, love the blues, love the blues. And, funny thing is, one time I was at the House of Blues, and I mentioned them before, but there was it was a band there, old guys. I think the youngest guy was about 75 years old, and the oldest guy looked like he was like early 80s. And I was right in the front, and they were playing mean blues, some good stuff there. And the piano player, who looked like he was like 82, he was sipping down that whiskey. Guitar player was awesome. And the regret I have is I never asked back then. They were from Harlem, first of all, and they had that in their name, I think. And I said, oh man, I forgot what their name was. Years had passed. I actually called one time to the House of Blues when it still existed. And I said there was a band there that played, I gave them like the rough year. And I go, they were from Harlem, blues band, older guys, like in their 70s, 80s. And they just couldn't find the name. But I'm a huge fan of the blues. John Lee Hooker, another favorite of mine. Mr. Lucky, This Is Hip. Just, and you could hear that that's the foundation of rock and roll. I mean, it's in there. It's in the notes. So, they bring up all these other guys. They say these are the fathers. Okay, those may be the fathers, but these guys are the grandfathers of rock and roll music. I mean, they laid down. Without these guys, there would be no rock and roll. So that's the way it is. This right here. See that? I love Eddie Murphy. When this album came out and I heard it for the first time, I was blown away. I thought it was the funniest thing I had ever heard. Like, really sharp, clever, good impressions. Now, in today's culture that we live in, some of these things would be very controversial. But back then, they weren't controversial at all. They were just funny. And everybody I knew loved this album. And to this day, one of my favorite comedy albums. It's, very clever. I wish that Eddie Murphy would do stand-up again. But it is my opinion that music, comedy, all that stuff has a window of opportunity to the musician, to the comedian, right? And I think it's about 5 to 7 years. You notice these guys, they're comedians, they come up, with an album and it's really funny, and then, 5, 7 years later, you hear another thing, and it's not that funny anymore. There's so many examples of that. Yes, there are a few that, they're consistently funny. But a lot of these guys, they have like 5 to 7 years, and then they run out of stuff. Their brain is like used up. But, very successful. Big fan of Eddie Murphy's. Especially this album here. Yeah. I mean, you start listening to this and you start getting carried away and you start using the F-bombs everywhere because of, the funniness of this album. So since then, I've been a huge fan of Eddie Murphy's. Like I said, I wish he would write some new material and go on the road and perform stand-up. I would definitely go see him. He's another guy. Definitely would go see. Great album. Last but not least. So this is one of my favorite movies of all time. One of my favorite books of all time. I had a teacher in high school, English teacher, Mr. Jackson. and he introduced the class to this book, Deliverance, and just the way he spoke about it before we even read it. We knew it was going to be good, and so we read the book, took the test, did awesome on the test, and he was a great teacher. He kept things interesting. He had interesting topics, but he was able to talk in a way that kept you engaged. So anyway, we read the book Deliverance, loved it. To this day, huge fan of the book. And then I remember he wheeled in the television set, and we watched it with Burt Reynolds in it, and one of my favorite movies of all time. There's movies like, the Deliverance, The Deer Hunter, Taxi Driver, that stand out, that I enjoy, my style, enjoy that kind of stuff. Well, this movie was just like, it had that tension at the end, when the sheriff shows up and they're kind of questioning them. I wish they made a sequel. I remember Burt Reynolds, when he was alive, was always talking about, there's a possibility we may make a sequel, but never happened. It's the same way with Robert De Niro talking about Taxi Driver, and he'd love to make a sequel, but nobody's moving on it. So, look at that. Deliverance. Dueling Banjos from the original soundtrack of Deliverance, and additional music performed by Eric Weisberg and Steve Mandel. And let's get in there. This guy here. See this guy? Right there. I was blown away by this guy. Blown away. I literally thought he was an inbred, like one of those people that, siblings produced. But he's not. Just looks that way. They went down there, the film crew, looking for extras, and they found him, and he fits perfectly. He's got that look, even though he's not. He's, regular guy. If you see him now, it looks like that still, but bigger and older, but still looks like that. I remember reading a story about him, and they said he works at Walmart now. So everything about this movie was good. Everything about it. I mean, I haven't seen it now in many, many years, but, every once in a while I like to sit down as if it's my first time watching it and enjoy it. So I let a few years go by, so it's not like oversaturating my brain, but I'm due for a viewing of Deliverance. Look at that. See all that, the light. And the Dueling Banjos tune, very cool. Look at that. Da-na-na-na-na. And then, of course, the famous line, "Squeal like a pig." In those kind of places, I go in the woods a lot, in the St. Gabriel Mountains. I used to do it a lot more when I was younger, before I had kids. Now I get the guilt trip, it's like, yeah, you can't do that kind of stuff. You have kids, so I don't do this. Like, I may do it, but I don't do it alone. When I was younger, I would go to the craziest places and hike on my own deep. So yeah, a lot of people I used to hike with, they would never go alone. They would go with a group, 5, 6 people. And when I would go with them, it was always like, 5, 6, 7 people. Felt safer, A bear is not going to attack 6, 7 people, right? But there were times, like, more often I would go by myself than with people, that I would go deep, even off trail. So anything can happen. You know, my wife decided to get me one of those in-reach things so I wouldn't get lost. I've never gotten lost on a mountain, but you know, it could happen, especially since I go off trail. But she got me one of those things, and it reverses your movement back to your car. So I would carry it, and it does work. Satellite-based technology. Hit the button, it sends you back where you came from. But there were a few times, you know, I ran into a bear once, was by myself. It did not do anything to me. It just stared at me for about 30 seconds. I stared back, and then the bear, you know, spun around and went the other way, the same way I had to go. But I did not see it a second time. So, you know, but just for safety reasons, you know, swimming and hiking, it's best to do it with a few people, you know, so in case something happens. Plus numbers, you know, the power of numbers saying, it's true. So yeah, I used to go San Gabriel, like Mount Baldy. I'd go in there. Mount Pinto, or no, it's not Pinto, it's Pino, right? I went into Mount Pino when maybe, I don't know, like 16 years ago. I went hiking up there, and I went really deep, but I found my way back. One time, three of us, we decided we were going to go to Mount Waterman, and sleep over. So we packed everything, get the tent going and all that, food, and we went way up, close to the top, and we set up at nighttime, a little camp there, and we had 2 dogs with us. And I decided, you know, I'm going to take a walk for a little bit, you know, explore while they set up. I set up my stuff, they were setting up their stuff, so I decided, you know, I have time to take a little walk, and then we'll come back and cook. So I was walking. I went down, around. It's dark now. There's no moon out. And all of a sudden, I look around. I don't know where they are. I don't hear anything. It's pitch black out. And I can't see my hand in front. I can't see anything. It's so dark. And I don't know where they are now. So I'm just sitting there wondering which way to go. I didn't want to get even further away. So I froze, and I'm looking. And then all of a sudden, I see 2 lights coming towards me, maybe like 1,000 yards away or something. I could see the lights, and those lights were the dogs. They had lights on their collars, and they found me. Yeah, they found me, and they brought me back. Very, very cool. I love dogs. If it wasn't for them, I'd probably I'd be stuck up there still, maybe even as a skeleton. So anyway, they came, they found me, and they were able to figure out that I was down there from like that distance. You know, they could probably see me moving around. They said, that looks like the guy that was with us before. So I could see them running towards me, and the lights were just, you know, and finally they came up to me, sniffing me, and they brought me back. But yeah, so, but in general, it's best to go with a group. You know, I mean, how many times, I think about it now, how many times, if something happened to me, and a few times something did happen, I'll discuss that on another video, another time, if at all, but, you know, injuries, things like that, you fall, you hit your head, you get knocked out, you know, at least if you're with a bunch of people, you know, they can get help, they can help you down, they can, you know, make sure you're okay. But I used to do it alone all the time, and people would say to me, that's not good, doing it by yourself. And I'm like, yeah, but nobody wants to come the way I want to, you know, hike. So, but now I have my kids. If we go hiking, you know, I mean, we went to British Columbia, was it last year? Not this summer, summer before, went there, and we went to Hope, and then we went up the mountains. I took my kids with me. We went hiking through there. So, you know, and now you have cell phones. which don't always work, but better than nothing, right? So you have cell phones, you have that kind of backup. And we went through the mountains up there, but I am a mountain person. I have been since I was a kid. I thank Grizzly Adams for that. So yeah, I love exploring. I used to explore the woods in Maine all the time. Anyway, the time now is 1:33 in the AM, Sunday, August 31st. So that's it. I'm going to go get some sleep. And that's it for now. Ciao.